The AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a DNA vector vaccine, was approved in around 130 countries across the planet. This was despite the fact that this DNA vector vaccine was causing serious blood clots and myocardial infarction in people who were receiving this vaccine. This was known as early as March of 2021, that is more than 3.5 years ago. Regulators and scientists in Western Europe were well aware that this vaccine was causing clots in the brain and in the abdomen and also in the lungs, and there were also deaths. The first person to die was reported from Austria. This was a woman, and the first paper published was in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is considered the best scientific journal. This was a paper on 11 people who received this vaccine. Of these 11 people, 6 people died, which is a mortality of nearly 45%, which is very, very high. Despite this fact that the vaccine was causing serious adverse effects, a number of countries, particularly ours, that is India, persisted with this vaccine. There were 2 more papers published in the New England Journal of Medicine at the same time, and these again reported that these blood clots were being formed in people who had received this particular vaccine, and the mortality ranged from 20%, 22% to almost 70%. Now, this was a matter of great concern, and therefore, justifiably, countries like Austria, Iceland, Norway, Denmark, France, Italy, Spain, and also Germany, eventually, very early in 2021, that is between March and May 2021, suspended the use of this vaccine, especially in people who are below the age of 50 years. We, however, carried on with full vigor in this country with this very toxic vaccine. Now, for the first time, we have a long-term follow-up, and this has been published this year in July 2024 in the journal called Vaccine. And this is the long-term study, which is again very alarming. Here, of course, we know that the company randomized participants into one group, that is the vaccinated group, that received 2 shots of this vaccine, and the placebo group, which received a dummy shot of salt in water. The vaccinated group consisted of about 20,000 people, and the control or the placebo group consisted of about 10,000 people. Now, what actually happened was that the study to begin with was a double-blind randomized trial, which means that the participant who received the injection had no knowledge of what was being given to him, as also the person who injected the vaccine or the placebo had no idea as to what he or she was injecting. So this is a double-blind randomized study. The reality is, and this is conceded by the authors in this paper, that the unblinded phase lasted for a mere 2.5 median months. And after 6 months, the trial became unblinded, which means that the control group opted for a vaccination, either the AstraZeneca vaccine or a messenger RNA vaccine or the inactivated vaccine manufactured probably in India or China. This particular study was done in 3 countries, Peru, Chile, and the United States of America. So to summarize again, 32,000 participants were included in this double-blind randomized study, and 20,000 of them received the vaccine and 10,000 received the placebo. The trial was unblinded at 6 months because the majority of people in the control group, that is the people who had received the placebo injections or the salt injections opted for vaccination. So beyond that, we have no statistical data. We cannot compare the two groups. But what is alarming is that in the first 6 months, we already know that there were serious adverse effects which were classified into 3 groups. One was the serious adverse events of special interest. The other was serious adverse events needing medical attention. And the third was just serious adverse effects. Now, these were defined as myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, clots in the brain, clots in the lungs, clots in the abdomen, and also a form of Guillain-Barré, that is, you have paralysis. There were also occlusions in the eyes. All right, so these were very, very serious adverse effects. Now, for the numbers, the adverse effects demanding special interest were to the tune of 11% in the vaccinated group. The adverse events demanding medical attention were to the tune of 22%, and almost around 3% people had serious adverse events. Now, once the study was unblinded, then we only have data on the people who were vaccinated. Because remember, the control group opted for vaccine, so there could not be any comparison done. Now, in the vaccinated group, there was a surprisingly very high incidence of serious adverse events. This was to the tune of actually, that is the number mentioned in the paper, of 4.8%, which means that 4.8% of the people who received the AstraZeneca vaccine in this trial developed either a myocardial infarction or a blood clot or a serious neurological problem. Now, 4.8% means 4,800 people had adverse effects in a lakh of people, and 48,000 had serious adverse events in 1 million people who would be vaccinated. Now, these are alarmingly high figures, and this is the reason why AstraZeneca voluntarily withdrew their vaccine from the market. It was not done out of goodwill or from the goodness of their heart. This was done because they realized that their vaccine was producing massively high serious adverse events, and they would be liable for prosecution, and not only a civil attack, this could possibly be a criminal attack on them. And this is the reason why they took off their vaccine this May, that is May of 2024. They pulled it out from the market, and this withdrawal was finally approved by the EMA of Europe, that is the European Medical Agency that regulates this vaccine. So to summarize, we knew as early as March of 2021 that this vaccine was dangerous, that this vaccine was capable of killing people, and we had begun our vaccination rollout in January, I think on January 16th of 2021. So within 2 months, it was public knowledge that countries were very concerned with this vaccine. They found this vaccine very troubling, and therefore they were suspending the use of this vaccine. But we carried on with this vaccine all these years, and it is only now, about in May of 2024, that this vaccine was withdrawn by the AstraZeneca company. Thank you very much.